Good morning, happy Monday. I'm excited to be able to share with you some thoughts from my quiet time lately. And I hope everyone's doing well. It's been quite a crazy time, and I feel like we're all adjusting to a new, hopefully temporary normal. It's been crazy for our family, just adjusting. And Lexi, my 10-year-old, came in bed the other night after having a nightmare, I'm sure, from some of all of this. And I'm so thankful that social distancing doesn't count with my immediate family and my kids. And we hugged and snuggled tight, just knowing that these are some crazy times. And it's reminded me of crazy times that people dealt with in the Bible. You know, we went up to the ocean with the kids on Friday, which is my happy place. I find so much comfort there. I get reminded of just how big God is, how in control He is, and it was just good to be there. It's my happy place. And there's a time in the Bible where they're also dealing with the water and waves. And in Matthew 14, in verse 24, or just above that, it says, "When evening came, He was there alone," talking about Jesus, "but the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. During the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw Him walking on the lake, they were terrified. 'It's a ghost,' they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, 'Take courage, it is I, don't be afraid.' 'Lord, if it's you,' Peter replied, 'tell me to come to you on the water.' 'Come,' He said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, 'Lord, save me.' Immediately Jesus reached out His hand and caught him. 'You have little faith,' He said, 'why did you doubt?' And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped Him, saying, 'Truly, you are the Son of God.'" And here I see Peter, who's having to learn about keeping his focus on God. And it reminds me so much, for me, to stay centered on God through the waves and through the storm. You know, Peter walked up close and personal with Jesus, and yet he had to figure out staying centered on Him. I find it interesting that here Jesus lets the disciples go on out ahead of Him, and I'm sure He wasn't unaware that either there was a storm going on or that there was going to be one coming. And yet He decides not to join them until close to dawn the next day. He allowed them to go through it. And when He saw Peter, you know, it says that Peter was terrified, and yet Peter had faith in Jesus enough to want to come out and walk to Him. And when He stepped out of the boat, Jesus didn't take away the waves. He didn't make the storm stop then. But Peter had faith. He stepped out, and as he started walking, he took his eyes off of Jesus and got it caught up in the waves. And I think for me, as I'm trying to navigate all of this time, it's hard to not be distracted by the waves, the storm of just the things that are going on around us as the sky is falling, you know, that there are a lot of things to be fearful of and anxieties and just a whole new way of living that we're all dealing with right now. And yet I've got to figure out how to choose to keep my focus on Jesus. And I think here, Peter and Jesus got back in the boat, and that's when the wind died down. Peter really learned that being with Jesus, being in the boat with Him, was what gave him peace. And for me, that's really been something that I've been learning a ton, you know, even before this time. It's been hard going through the loss of my dad and just grieving, which a global pandemic right after that is not totally helping. But I think the storms are always going to come, and God doesn't always answer my prayers in the way that I want Him to or that I think would be best. But He's in control, and I'm not. And I think He's going to continue to teach me that I've got to figure out how to stay focused on Him. And, you know, in New England, it's been a pretty mild winter, but it's been good because it's afforded me a lot of time to go on prayer walks, just being with God. And I think that's where I've had to figure out that my purpose in my walk with God, that when I pray, is not about a means to an end. You know, I'm not praying because I hope this virus will end, though I do, and I hope that God will answer that prayer. I'm not praying to God just so that my family and friends can stay healthy or not be affected by this, though I hope that they do and that we won't be. But really understanding that praying in my walk with God is all about being with him, finding the calm and figuring out how to be in the boat with Jesus. And that's really been changing me. But honestly, it's been taking the storms and the suffering to go through to figure out how to stay focused on him, as Peter did here. You know, again, like I said, I love the ocean. I love being able to be near it. I think some of my fondest memories are being in the boat with my dad on the ocean, you know, and no matter what we were doing, what I found to be the most joyful was just being with him, what I wouldn't give to do that again. And now I'm learning that more and more with God, that my prayer life, my walk with him is so much deeper than just trying to get to a certain point. You know, I love that Disney Plus released Frozen 2 early. We were watching it the other day. And Elsa sings Into the Unknown. We're living in a time right now that is unknown, you know. We're never guaranteed tomorrow, but especially right now, we're having to embrace that idea big time. And for me, God wants me to grasp going through that with him and really focusing on finding my peace by staying focused on the fact that he's enough, no matter what the outcome may be, that being with him and being able to find joy in his presence is what matters most. You know, heaven is going to be amazing. There's no more pain or sorrow or sadness. And yet I've got to walk with God now and enjoy him to be able to get there one day. And I think just as Peter was able to learn to take his eyes off of the storm and put it back on Jesus, it wasn't until then that he had peace. And I'm trying to embrace that. I hope that this helps and that you have a great day.